Right, I've been asked over and over again when to do a Ruben Amorim tactic, and because of, by the way, the form of Sporting at the moment, big win against Benfica at the weekend, put them in the absolute driving seat for the Primera Liga title this season. Also, he's heavily linked now, the bookies frontrunner for the Liverpool manager's job. I thought it was a really good time to get the video together. Not only am I going to show you the squad building that he's done, how the tactic changes depending on personnel, obviously a 3-4-3 we're going to be looking at, and then we're going to put it over into a little bit of a Liverpool save. I've run a few games. I'm going to show you how the Liverpool squad would work with this tactic, and also a few little issues that they may have going forward, just a little bit of a rebuild, squad rebuild that they may have to do. All right, guys, let's dive into it. As always, please put your suggestions for different tactics down in the description, in particular in real life tactics. I am going to do an Erik ten Hag kind of 4-3-3 chaos tactic, which I think is going to be absolutely perfect for the FM match engine. So that'll be out later on in the week. And as always, Patreons, the file is now available for you to download over on the Patreon. Link down in the description if you want to support the channel. Really helps me out as a creator. You've got all the tactical files throughout FM24 right there for you. And shout out to all the guys that have been on screen. Thank you very much for your support. If you're not a Patreon, do not worry. I am going to go through all the team roles, player instructions, everything, so you can copy it into your FM24 save yourself. Okay, so generally it's a 3-4-3. What they like to do is move the ball, play out of defence, obviously, with the ball-playing defenders. Like to work the ball through the middle of the pitch, in particular overloads with the two wider players, the two attacking players coming in quite narrow and allowing the two wing-backs to stay high and wide. Very important to open the pitch out a little bit so they can get their chief creators on the ball and kind of using the wing-backs as a little bit of a second thought. If it's too tight in the middle of the pitch, they'll often go out there as not as a last resort, but as a second option. But they do like to work through and have loads of little third-man runs and bounce passes off players like Gyökeres, the two wide players coming in, and also the role of the volante. All right, so we're going to work through the team now. And Adnan has been the number one. We're just going to put him as a sweeper keeper on support. He's liking to help him build up whenever he can, so he is a sweeper keeper on support. The back three is a really interesting one, and this is once again where it starts as depending on the personnel that they've got at the time. So they've got a whole host of defenders that can actually play as central defenders. They've got Luis Neto, Coates, Ignacio, Quaresma. I don't think how much them have played, but Diamande's played there. There's also been St. Justus played there, and Matthias Reis has done an option between playing wing-back on the left and left centre-half. So depending on, I think, the opponents will determine what kind of players and personnel they play. So sometimes I think playing against a low block or a team that you're expected to beat, both of these roles will potentially go into wide centre-backs with someone like maybe a Matthias Reis may go into there, and then they may allow one of the more attacking wing-backs to go into that wing-back slot on the left. But for the basis of this tactic, what I have done is we're going to go Jerry St. Just, likes to carry the ball, comfortable at right back, comfortable at right wing back. So I've tried to get a little bit of a balance of like a hybrid between the two sort of like systems. And once again, as I said, you can change a couple of things, and I'll talk about a couple of tweaks as well. So St. Just, wide centre-back on defend. By all means, if you want him to carry the ball a little bit more, you're going to need to put that on support. The middleman is generally Coates in the big games. The former Liverpool player, what is he now? Yeah, there he was. Liverpool back in 2014 for a few years. 32 years old. Now, it's interesting because in build-up, he does often move into a little bit of a midfield area, and this has proved a little bit tricky. I've tried to work with the libero. It does work at times, but we don't get the balance right. So he kind of does play like a libero in real life, and he'll often come into here to form a double pivot. That'll force up the volante. It will often come in here as well as a little bit of an option. We get that, but we don't get that double pivot. My advice would be ball-playing defender on cover. And this is an example. So Virgil is playing my central defender, ball-playing defender on cover. You've got the two defenders there. And this is the position he'll make him build up, where he kind of stands in front. The player's now playing, so he doesn't naturally drop, even though he's on cover. He doesn't naturally drop in. But we don't get it. We get it right to a certain extent, where it has kept their two strikers, Decotova Reed and Armando Baroja, really narrow, and then it does enable us to force the ball out on the right-hand side with the wide centre-back. But we don't get that double pivot, so that's something to think about. Now, what I suggest is if you're playing against a really low block and you're playing maybe against a lone striker, 4-5-1, something like that, put that onto libero on defend and see how then he does move in. It's not quite what Sporting do. However, it does give you that little bit of an extra overload in midfield. It's just, however, not natural to the build-up of Sporting. But if you want him to sort of like have a little bit of a variation with it, what tends to do, he drops into these areas in build-up, and then when it progresses into the middle third, he likes to sit back in, so they form that three at the back. And if you look at a couple of sort of like passing networks from the recent games, even though he's stepping in build-up, his average position is quite deep. He's not doing sort of like the John Stones, doing the modern-day libero, moving into midfield. So something just to be aware of. On the left-hand side, I've done ball-playing defender with the player instruction of stay wider, just in build-up. We help out the little bit, we spread the back three. Loads, obviously, that's the way to do it. Spread the back three. We'll get that with the wide centre-half. But I just wanted someone who was just going to stay in defensive position, but in build-up, to sort of look like that inverted full-back role a little bit that you see in the game. So that's the back three. A little bit fluent, depending on your personnel at the time, and also the opponents that you're playing. The two wide players, wing back on attack, no player instructions. I put them both on attack because he does want them to get as high up the line and be that option on the last line of defence. What it does is it gives the fullbacks a problem. Back fours will have to spread across the pitch a little bit more, and then it'll leave gaps between the fullbacks and the centre-backs to allow those little neat 1-2s with the inverted wingers and the inside forwards coming in and playing. So have that on, not complete wing-back because we don't want them to drift in. Potentially as well in some of the bigger games, if they often go with a St. Just, I think it's played a couple of games there, and Matthias Rees on that side, you may want to do a little bit of a attack and a support just to give you a little bit more balance. However, I've not done that because I have really wanted the two wing-backs to get as high as possible. They do have players as well like Nuno Santos, who was out-and-out winger in his time, has now dropped back into a left wing and is a really left wing-back, and is a really good outlet. Often plays in games that they're expected to dominate. So they've got a really nice balance Sporting of options and rotations of players that they can use and utilise depending on the personnel that they've got. Wing-back on the right, once again, loads of different options. I think this guy, Gaio, has been playing a lot of time. A little bit of a veteran at 30 years old on that right side. Into the middle too, they've had lots of changes in here with players leaving, Palinha, Agate both left over the last few years, and they've managed to re-strengthen again. This time that real number 6 world has gone to Humand, who is a summer signing, and his job is just to sit in there, anchor on defend. He's played a lot of minutes this year. Often there's a little bit of a change with this role here, but I would go Humand, anchor on defend. It's a role that I really like in the game. You could by all means do a defensive midfielder on defend, but I think anchor just gives you that real stay in there and allow the other players to go on beyond. Very good in rest defence as well, stopping counter-attacks. So that's why we've got Humand as a anchor. Now the left-hand side has changed a little bit. At times there is Daniel Braganca plays in there. We've also got Marita has played most of the games in there. And at times they've actually gone with Pedro Gonçalves, who is an attacking player, often plays generally out on the left, but has played a number of games in the middle. What you could do is, I'm kind of seeing this as a little bit of the Schlobazai role at Liverpool, where you could potentially move him into a deeper area. He has played as an 8 for Liverpool. Could he do it in this formation? Potentially, in particular against teams that you're expected to beat. You've got that balance behind him with Hulman as an anchor and the 3 central defenders. So you could have even someone like Schlobazai, McAllister, Curtis Jones, Gravenberch, all in there. We're going to go Marita. What he likes to do is often get in between the lines. So if they're trying to break down a block, he'll often get in between the lines of like the first phase, sort of like the first line of defence and then the second line of defence. He'll often get into pockets. Not great in terms of carries and stuff like that. It's just the areas he gets into, and then he combines with Gyökeres and the 2 wider players. I imagine when Gonçalves goes in there as well, you could probably even put that as a roaming playmaker. But I have found a really nice balance. And the positions he gets in these little half spaces, absolutely brilliant in terms of sucking a player out of maybe that defensive line and leaving a gap for someone else to exploit. The front man we'll talk about now, actually, Gyökeres. Advance forward. We want him to pass. We want the ball to go into space. He's very good at running into channels. You look at his heat map across the year. Loves to work the channels a little bit. So advance forward, proper number 9 is how it is for him. I'm amazed, and it drives me insane that clubs do not take advantage of a deal like that, and then 12 months down the line, Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea are all wanting to pay up to maybe £80 million for someone that they could have got for not even half, a quarter of the price 12 months ago. Why people don't give him the opportunity to play off the bench and work his way. Like Man United would have been ideal this season, with Højlund injured at times and struggling a little bit to find his feet. Having someone like Gyökeres to come in would have been ideal. But anyway, I'm not a manager, I'm just an average YouTuber, so maybe there's something that I don't know. The two wider options now is very, very fluent, depending on who we've got. So we're going to go through the ones. Now, I have got it as Gonçalves on the left, and then I've been playing Marcus Edwards on the right. Now, I've done this mainly because of what potentially Mo Salah, if he stays at Liverpool, what he could do and the role that he could do for that tactic. Now, we've got inside forward, sit narrower, and we've also got inverted winger on support, sit narrow. Very important because we want to create the overloads in the middle of the pitch. We want these little tight combinations. So very important that we have sit narrower on. Now, this is where I think Sporting are so good, and depending on opponents, depending on game state, depending on just wanting to change things up, not having like for like replacements and having very different players who can play in the same position. So for an instance, if a Trincao, who has probably played probably a lot more games recently, more than Edwards, comes into the side, he's even at times you could even have an inverted winger. You could have him as an advanced playmaker, someone who's going to naturally drift in and go very narrow compared to what an Edwards does. If you look at Edwards, he's sometimes average positions. A lot of the time, he's actually higher, the furthest man forward, where Trincao likes to come into these areas. On the left-hand side, so it's been Gonçalves. It can often be Santos as well. The other option that they have been doing, has been playing a lot, has been Paulinho. Now, he generally is a striker. He's a centre forward who's doing a little bit of a job for the side. Back up to Gyökeres up front. Now, what I would do, if I'm going to go with a Paulinho, something that you could change, is bring him inside and put him as a shadow striker. There's a goal that he scored. This little clip here, this is the second goal in the 6-1 smashing of Boavista. And as you can see, he's just about to sort of like slide in and put them ahead. So very much a shadow striker. And he's basically burst through that space right there into the 6-yard box to score. Very much a centre forwards kind of movement. So with that, a shadow striker would work. So that is the player roles and the player positions. I forgot to even mention this guy called Jenny, who's played a couple of games recently. I think he actually scored a couple of big goals. He did. He scored his Jenny Kamatamo, probably butchered that, scored both goals at the weekend. I think the second one is an absolute beauty. Hitting the ball really well, loose ball, sort of like camping on the edge of the area. So he's been a threat recently as well, once again, giving them loads of different options. Right, we're going to move into sort of like the team instructions, and then we'll look at how it fits in with Liverpool. Okay, so positive mentality. Now, we've gone pass into space, and I'll show you a little clip in a minute with the Liverpool of how we want that to use. You know, they want to play, and I do think having Núñez there as a centre forward, not as technically good as Gyökeres, nowhere near technically good, but if we can, you know, we've often been said, I think, maybe a little bit more technical coaching with Amorim compared to maybe Klopp might help him with the off-the-ball stuff, but running into channels, you know, often exploiting spaces left. Can they go direct? You know, they're not always constantly looking to build up through the thirds like a Manchester City. If they want to go long and hit it early, they hit it early if there's a little bit of a higher line. And obviously Darwin Núñez will absolutely thrive off that. So we have put pass into space on just to see if we can just hit, not, you know, direct balls a little bit, but balls in the channels for players such as him to chase. Slightly shorter pass, and we've left that on sort of like the middle one with fairly wide attacking width. We want to create that overload in midfield, so there's an argument as well that you could probably go fairly narrow. The wide players will still stay wide, so we're looking at those wing backs holding the width. But if you want to do that to encourage those little combinations, get those three attacking players along with sort of like the Volante getting a little bit closer together, then you could potentially do that. Play out of defence, obviously, because we're playing out of defence, and then slightly higher tempo just for us to move it around. I have been changing that in-game. Generally, when we're holding on to a lead, been dropping it down, and when we've maybe been chasing games as well, I've been putting it up, but I always find slightly higher is a nice little balance. Everything else off. I have looked at the potentially low crosses. The amount of low crosses comes into the box is really high, so I have been changing that during my Liverpool save that I was doing. So low crosses could be an option for you as well. That doesn't mean every single cross will be low. I think one of our first goals of the season was from a header from Darwin Núñez, even though we had low crosses on. So that doesn't mean it's always going to be low crosses into the box. In transition, no real counter press. I'm going to talk about the sort of like the defensive sort of like vulnerabilities at times. So we're not going to counter press. We're going to counter, yes. And if we look at a few stats from StatsBomb, as you can see, they're leading the way for counter-attacking shots in the league. So that's why we've got that on. In distribution, we're going to play out of the back as well. We build out from the back with the goalkeeper in the centre half. So take shot kicks and distribute to centre halves is on. Out of possession, we've gone high line and high press. They do press. Their PPDA numbers are ranked 4th in the league, 9.03 compared to Porto's 6.73 and Benfica's 7.72. So not an absolute pressing machine. What he does like to do is get his two wider players to come in a little bit narrow and to cut off passing lanes into the middle of the pitch and forcing the play out wide. So not so much a pressing machine. I was a little bit worried when I first thought about Mo Salah in particular. We'll have a little chat about him, about the role that he will play. But because they're not absolute pressing monsters, potentially it's something that Liverpool could cope with Mo Salah next season. High line as well, want to get up that pitch. You know, they do often not do a Man City where they're absolutely in that final third, all the players, but we want to get up the pitch as much as we can. We can't leave it too open like, you know, the Manchester United low line and high press. So it gives us a nice little balance. Trap outside, which we spoke about, having those three central players, the three attacking players quite narrow. They'll be quite narrow generally anyway because of the in-possession instructions. So if there's a loss of possession, they'll naturally probably be inside, so we can force the play out wide. So we've got trap outside on. And then drop off more. They are susceptible to counter-attacks, mainly because of the highness of the wing-backs, leaves big spaces in behind. Okay, and here's an example of that dropping off. So it's my Liverpool save. I'm going to zoom right out so that you can see. Cross comes in. I think it gets half cleared. We recycle the ball, and then I think we'll just zoom in a little bit, and then we lose it here. If we just take it back just a touch, as the ball comes in, we're all facing that way, and then just watch what the two centre-halves immediately turn a run towards our own goal. Now, you might see this as a bad thing. You know, there was a run from Slobozlai against Manchester United yesterday when he ran through, unchallenged through the centre of the pitch, just after Manchester United taking the lead, and they got absolute pelters for it. But I do like the idea of this dropping off. Obviously, they're going to be susceptible to these high lines, so dropping off and getting back in is important. Just watch what we do in the end. So Totti runs. I think Totti goes to full length. But right now, look, we've actually got ourselves back into a decent shape. Our back three are in. No one's coming in engaged him early on and getting caught out and being played around. And then what it does allow is if there's someone else to come in, I think it's McAllister. Oh no, Endo then, the anchor man, comes across and makes the challenge. And as you can see, by us dropping off, we managed to get our back four, Robertson, the three centre-halves, Alexander-Arnold, who was caught high up the pitch, have all managed to get back in during that time. So by having that drop-off more on, it just allows the team just to get players back into position. Found really useful, actually. I've not used it that often. I think definitely if we're playing a high line at times, you know, that step up more is super aggressive, but I do like the drop-off part of it, where just been a little bit more cautious, a little bit more worried, I suppose, in terms of thinking about that potential counter-attack. Okay, so the Liverpool team, how does it look? Now, on the whole, compared to maybe a Xavi or Alonso, it probably works a lot better. They've got tremendous options in all areas. You've obviously got covering the wide wing-back roles. I suppose you've got a nice variation as well. Alexander-Arnold against a Conor Bradley. Conor Bradley much more direct than maybe what a Trent does. On the left-hand side, a little bit like for like in Tsimikas and Robertson, but someone who can definitely do, but both players really good at obviously doing that wing-back role. The back three, yes, like Virgil van Dijk, as that central defender, you know, but now he's how old is he? 32? 32, 33. He'll be 33 now. You know, him playing in the middle of a back three, absolutely fantastic as he gets older. You know, him not having to cover the wide areas as much, leading, being able to play those long switch passes, balls over the top for Núñez, absolutely fantastic. The left side, obviously Kanate, superb right defender. Matip's obviously aging. Joe Gomez, a nice little sort of like a versatile role. However, they do need to strengthen with a left centre-back. And in Bologna, they've got two. Now, my suggestion, first of all, would be Riccardo Calafiori. Absolutely tremendous. Played as a little bit of a left wing-back, a left full-back. So, naturally good at carrying, getting the ball forward. 6'2", started this season. He's still only 21, not 22 till May. absolutely perfect. Obviously, Motta is probably going to leave at the end of the season, so there'll be some sales, definitely. Someone needs to pick this boy up. Do not allow him to go somewhere for 30, 40 million, and then you're going to be spending double that in a 2 or even 1 year time. So Liverpool, get him. If not, there is Jon Lusumi, who is a left-sided, more of a... maybe along those Kanate role, big physical defender, but once again, decent on the ball, really quick, working those wide areas. I know Bologna play with a back four. However, it's so fluent and so flexible, he'd be really good at moving and rotating positions. So there is 2 options for you. There's also the guy at Leverkusen. Is it Ecuadorian or there he is. What is he? Yeah, he's Ecuadorian. Piero Ncape can play left wing back as well, left full back, left-sided centre half. Very good at going forward. So those are 3 options that Liverpool could definitely use next season if they go to this 3-4-3 under Amorim. So there's a little bit of squad depth. Endo, I think they will sign permanently. Really good in the anchor role. I think just while as the team's moving a little bit, I think they'll need to find probably a long-term 6. The number 8 role as well, you could often put McAllister in there as the deeper player in games that you're expected to win. So you've got 2 maybe better ball players in here. Curtis Jones, McAllister, could even play as that roaming playmaker at times. We said about Gonçalves playing in there. They've also got Slobozai as an absolute attacking role, if you're expected to dominate, but you want to keep that 3 structure and not, having the 3 at the back. Sometimes you're going to need, in particular against players with low blocks, he's one of these middle 2 to really push on, so you could do that. Maybe have it as a volante on attack, so he really bursts for those late runs into the area. The wingers, there is an abundance of options. There's Gakpo, could easily play on probably the left-hand side. Diaz can do the left-hand side, obviously. Now, the interesting one is Mo Salah, and for me, he's wanted in the game. And if I was carrying this on, I may do a Ruben Amorim rebuild. I am going to be doing a Simone Inzaghi United rebuilding Man United squad with the real life sort of data and stuff and signing players. Would you like to see that version with Liverpool? Let me know down in the comments with a Ruben Amorim tactic. If I was the manager, if 120 odd million comes in from Saudi, I would be accepting it. Whether he can do the pressing is arguable. He's not great at it. He's obviously getting on old. He's probably peaked in terms of the quality you're going to expect from him. With FFP being really, whatever it's bloody called now, being so massive in the game, could you sell him and then buy someone else, a long-term replacement, someone who's maybe going to help with the press a little bit more and then free you up some money to spend in other areas. And then obviously striker Nunes. I am a big fan of Darwin. He had a bit of a stinker at Old Trafford yesterday in terms of the way he kept hold of the ball, but Ruben Amorim likes that big number 9. Obviously Nunes would fit that bill. Gyökeres, Paulinho and obviously Slimani have all played there over the last few years at Sporting as well, so highly likely he would fit in. The tactic itself has done pretty well so far. We've just had a bit of a stinker against Fulham, dominated the game and got beat 1-0, 17 shots on goal, an XG of 1.65, but we have already played Man City, beat them 2-0. Now, if we look at the goals and assists for Sporting, Morita playing in that sort of volante role, only 6 goal contributions this season. Obviously holding his line. I think they will get more out of a McAllister in this role. He's going to be the goal scorer first of all. So as you can see, breaking through. Let me just slow it down just a little bit. So Gomez travelling from left fullback. McAllister, as you can see, quite high. Winning a ball. Obviously a decent strike. You're going to get a lot of these strikes from him from the edge of the area. But that's what you get with that volante role. And then Mo Salah, narrower position. Runs in behind. Just absolute borderline offside, but obviously that kind of suits Mo now. You want him inside a little bit, maybe not got that. He obviously still got great pace, but doesn't want those 1v1 duels. I think he's found it really tough playing in those wide areas. Even Wan-Bissaka has managed to do really well against him, but you want him in around the penalty area. So that inside forward role, sit now instruction may help. We managed to draw 2-2 at Arsenal as well. We've beaten Bournemouth, and then we've had a really good 5-0 over over Wolves. There's our build-up look. So really nice. Kind of a 3-2-5 or a 3-1-6, depending on, we've got our 3 central defenders here. We've got that nice line of 5 across with McAllister as the volante being a little bit of a bit part. He could even dart into that area. We've got the options of the wide players and we work it out wide. Actually, Kanate goes on a run himself. Low cross is on, but don't worry. a header will come in from Darwin Núñez. It's not always going to be low crosses, as I mentioned earlier. This one as well, we get a rare strike from Endo from the edge of the area. Nice little combinations we get down this right-hand side with the wide centre-back getting involved in Konate, Alexander-Arnold, Salah, and then finding a free man at the edge of the area, often pullbacks. Very useful supports for Sporting, especially when the attacking players are getting right in. Any pullbacks to the edge of the area, Endo does really well to fire in, so you often will get them, even though that's an anchor. This is nice from Darwin. Nice little bit of link play. Gyökeres is so good at that, being a little bit of a target and linking the play. Switching the ball out to the right. Forcing the run from Alexander-Arnold. Forces Salah in really narrow. Gets inside. Look, we've got 2 players in and around the 6-yard box, and he fires in from close range. Something that I think if Liverpool are going to keep with him, I'm not sure. Let me know, Liverpool fans or any fans. Is he going to stay? Is he going to? It's been rumoured that he's going to go off to Saudi. I think they should take the money, but this is definitely one way, getting him more central. Definitely one way of maximising his ability in his final few seasons at the club. And this one here, I think McAllister strikes again from the edge area, but this is, watch Virgil, this is Virgil playing as a libero, so just you can see. So as you can see, we've burst straight in. It does initially pull one of their strikers out, and then he kind of gives up on it, but he's given an option in like that DM line, look. And what it does, he's kept McAllister in a whole load of space. It's drawn out He-Chan, left McAllister with a little bit of room to work in, gets past that one defensive midfielder, and fires in. So it does give you options in the final third. I wouldn't put it on support. As I said, generally they like to keep that back 3 in the final third, but just as a little bit of a tactical change, playing against what are Wolves, by the looks of it, a very narrow, low block, something you could do just to try and alter the way that they press, drag a player out. You know, we've managed to drag He-Chan out there, and it's given McAllister that little bit of room to get a little bit of a half turn in and then have a shot on goal. All right, everybody, that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the Patreon. I muchly appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next one, the Chaos of Ten Hag.